Hey everyone, today we're installing a full stainless steel exhaust system from Kelpi on this beautiful Yamaha. This system's going to suit all XSR900 and Tracer 900 models from 2022 onwards, as well as MT-09s from 2021 onwards. We're going to start off here by showing you how to take off the stock system. We're going to cut off this little zip tie here to give ourselves some free play with the O2 sensor cable and minimize any excess twisting before taking a 17mm spanner and just loosening that one off the headers. Next, we're going to be moving the radiator forward slightly just to give ourselves a bit of extra room to work with. So we'll start by taking off these two bolts that hold the top of the radiator to the underside of the frame. There's a bracket that holds the lower end of the radiator to the engine block, and it's in a little bit of a tricky to reach spot. So the aim of the game here is just to get that nut loose enough so that you can get it finger loose and take it off just using your hands rather than trying to work the spanner in that tight space. And here's a bit of a better look at that bracket so you know what you're dealing with. Now that the radiator is loose, we can just move that forward slightly and up to give ourselves a bit of extra room there and hold it in place temporarily with a relatively long cable tie. Next, we're going to be removing the nuts that hold the header pipes into place against the engine block. If you've got a little swivel tool here on an extender, that's going to give you a bit more reach and flexibility to get to these difficult to reach nuts. There's 6 of these nuts in total, 2 for each of the headers. With the header nuts removed, there's just 2 more bolts holding the muffler or the cap to the frame itself. This one's on the right hand side, and the one on the left is next to the kickstand pivot just down here. Now this is the last bolt that's holding the whole system onto the bike, so at this point you do want to support it to avoid it just dropping straight onto the floor. You may need to give those headers a little wiggle just to completely free it up. If you're choosing to reuse the existing exhaust gaskets, a little dab of grease can help to secure them as you place them back into the engine block. Next, you want to start to assemble the individual header pipes into the merge collector, and you can use those U-shaped tabs for the spring positions to help you with alignment. Once you've got an aligned set of headers, we can start to apply the springs. This is where a spring puller tool is worth its weight in gold, and you should be able to find one of these locally. These springs do take a little bit of tension to get on, so just be patient and take your time with it. If you've got a friend to help you hold everything in place, that is very useful, but it is totally doable by yourself. Now that we have our assembled headers, we're going to slide these in underneath the radiator and slot them into their respective exhaust ports. It is a bit of a process here, just wiggle things around. The main thing what we're trying to do is to get the flanges or the flat joining plates over those engine bolts and getting the nuts on just to secure them in place. We're not trying to tighten anything at this stage, we're just trying to get the positioning right. Once you've got the first flange in place, you want to come around to the opposite side of the bike as we are here to get that second flange. The final cylinder, the one in the middle, is a little difficult to show you here, but it is the same process. We're just getting those nuts over the top of the bolts and getting everything only until they're finger tight for now. It's an iterative process, and you'll notice that we haven't brought out any sockets or wrenches yet. We're just using our hands to get things tighter and just working our way in bit by bit and making sure those headers are seated well in their ports. And before we do a final tighten of our header bolts, we're going to join in our link pipe here and just rotate that in clockwise until the bracket lines up with the mounting point here on the bike. We're going to slot a nut onto the back of that bolt, just finger tight for now. You can see the link pipe still has a lot of free play. And we have 2 more springs to fit up here onto the merge collector. Next, we're going to remove this bolt so that we can add our hanger bracket. Just note that it does come from the factory with a lot of Loctite, so it's going to take a little bit of force there to get that one loose. Here's our hanger bracket, which is going to hold the muffler outward from the bike. We're going to use that bolt and slot it back into the original mounting point here, and just like everything else so far, we're not going to tighten that up all the way. We do want to have a bit of free play here so that we can get everything aligned. At this point, we can fit our muffler with or without the baffle installed as per your preference, and then there's just a couple of extra springs here to secure that onto the link pipe. In order to tighten the bolt on the muffler hanger, Life's going to be a lot easier if we just get this foot peg assembly out of the way. Note that there is a high and a low position here, so just remember what your bike comes with. It should be low by default. And now that we've got some more room to work with here, we can easily tighten up that exhaust hanger bolt. Before we go ahead and do our final tighten on these header flanges, we want to give them a wiggle and make sure that they're seated correctly in those exhaust ports. It can be helpful at this stage just to take things bit by bit. You want these headers to seat in unison rather than having one that's much tighter than the other or pulling things out of alignment. With the headers and the muffler bracket firmly in place, we can go ahead and reassemble the foot peg bracket and tighten up this link pipe mount. We'll get this mounting bracket reinserted on the bottom of the radiator here and then do our best with our hands to get this top bolt in as far as we can to spare ourselves from trying to do it with a spanner in this very tight enclosed space. We'll reinsert those two top mounting bolts for the radiator, then all that's left is to reattach the O2 sensor. In order to avoid any excess twisting of that wire, we're going to pre-twist it in the opposite direction to the way that it threads into those headers. Our last step is to zip tie that O2 sensor cable back onto the radiator hose, and that's job done. As you can see, there was nothing overly complex about that process, and we hope that this video helps you when it comes time to install your Kelpi system. We'll see you in the next one.